Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on the Challenge All-Stars 3, also streaming live here on Reality Realness on YouTube with 3 S's. I'm your host, Chris, and with me today, I've got Chantel and Drew, like always. It's all smile, Chantel. How are you doing today?
I'm wondering how to approach that question because I really, really can't stand a cliffhanger. I really don't like it. And it's just so unsatisfying. At this point, like the people that are watching are going to tune in next week. I do have a theory, though, as to why they did the cliffhanger, but I don't know if it's going to be worth it to like make their fans irritated right before the final. Like, come on, give me an episode. I want a full episode. It was really nothing really happened this episode, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what we talk about. Normally, before we go on, I guess the podcast to talk about the episode, we're always like, if there's not much happening, how are we going to talk for an hour? And then we end up talking for an hour and a half or 2 hours in any case. So I'm sure we'll find something to talk about, but it definitely annoyed me as well. There was a few things that annoyed me, but I don't want to get straight into the end immediately. Drew, how are you doing? Are you as annoyed by this cliffhanger, or is this just what we are sort of used to with the challenge? They do it every now and again.
I mean, if people have been following my videos for a long time, I loathe cliffhangers. I can't stand them. And I wonder if your theory is the same as mine. They don't have enough to fill in for the 9th episode as we're heading into the final. So they're going to put up a lot of fluff. We're going to see the ending of these eliminations, a lot of fluff. And then we're going to see them just get into the start of the finals next episode so they can hit that 10 episode mark. That's my theory on why they did it. And to me, it's just mismanagement of the editing, in my opinion, but we'll get into it. I'm sure
there's enough content going on there. They could have put more fluff in other episodes. You know what I mean? Like, anyways, they could have built some of these storylines that we were talking about last week. You know, we could have known a little bit more about what's going on with Wes and what's going on with the dynamic between some of these players. So I think they had enough material to be able to fill out these 10 episodes. Like, come on, 45 minutes, not that long.
Or do what they did in season 2 and split up the first and second episode, so it's just one big giant episode where we got to live with the people a little bit more before we got people leaving the game. If they knew they were going to drop 2 episodes, which my theory is they didn't know, and they kind of like just threw 2 episodes out so they could hit the Challenge USA beginning when this season will end. But if they knew in advance that they were going to do 2 episodes right at the beginning, I think they would have split up the first episode, where the first episode was going to have a daily challenge and the second episode would have the elimination. And that would have been perfect. That would have been enough to get to 10 episodes. But of course they didn't do that.
No. Well, let's get to some of the people here in the live stream, and let's welcome back a few people, a few familiar faces. Chris, welcome back in the live stream. Dolores, also in the live stream here. Certified Soft, I know we've seen you in the live stream before, but so happy to be here in the live for a change. Baby Ice, co-captain Baby Ice is in the live stream as well. Lovable Nikki is saying, well, I actually saw a different comment for Lovable Nikki. Someone was saying that Chantel is glowing, so it's always good to have comment. It's like that coming in when you're starting your podcast. So maybe you came in low because of the cliffhanger, but if you're getting comments like that, I'm sure that frown is going to turn upside down very, very quickly. Mr. Butler, welcome as well. Hector Flores, welcome as well in the live stream here today as well. Well, let's start off at the beginning of the episode. We have both Mark and Derek sitting down, having a good old time, having a chat. You know, they're big buddies this season. They have got all the stars. If this was a race to become the richest man in the house, they would be Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk in this house. Everybody wants what they have at this stage. You know, Derek feels really good about the fact that he can still do this challenge for another 10 years based on what Mark's doing. Mark's saying he'll go to 60. Really great moments here. I've been so impressed by Mark this season. Like, legitimately, he probably could still be going until he's 60 at this point, right? Because he's still winning.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like, Mark's it. Like, that's kind of what I want from the challenge. all-stars. I know you guys hear me complain all the time that some of these people are too young, but I like seeing the success of somebody that is older, that's been on the show since literally the beginning, and he's still able to do really well. And so I kind of want to see more of those storylines as opposed to my favorites all being taken out by injury. So yeah, I love seeing Mark still in his prime here, even though he's like 20 to 25 years older than some people. I love the fact that he makes me like Derek this season a little bit more than I usually do, which is a shocker. But yeah, I love that moment in the beginning talking about how he plans on doing it until he was 60. I'm like, yeah, people keep on telling you when you need to retire. No, you tell them how long you're going to stay in the game. So I was here for it.
Mark, I don't think you're going to find a more consistent challenger to span more than, I would say, 3 seasons. I mean, for how long he's played the game, how many seasons he's been on, and the decades he's been on this show, I mean, he is the most consistent at his gameplay, and I don't think you'll find a better social game in the challenge than Mark. I mean, this is why he gets so far in every single season that he's in, is because everybody just loves him, and he's able to pull it out. I'm happy that he's doing it with his performance this season and winning a lot with both eliminations and daily challenges. That's something I wanted to see from him this season, and he's coming in totally focused and passionate, and I love to see it.
Yeah, I've loved what Mark's been giving me this season. We also move on to a conversation here that is going to happen between Naya and Nehemiah. Obviously, Naya just lost Jordan in the game. She is extremely low, and this is going to be a trend that we're going to see throughout the episode. Now, I know I'm supposed to be all team Naya and like, Naya, go, you're my girl, you're my team, but at some points I found it very aggravating. Why does she need this support pillar in the game to help her be motivated to win money for herself? Like, does she have too much money that the money itself does not motivate her? I know I'm being harsh here, when you're losing someone that's very close, but at times it was really frustrating for me to watch her become this little girl that, needs a man to keep her motivated in the game. I just didn't really enjoy seeing that as much. And, it's interesting because when there was a risk of her going into the elimination, she said she turns into a different beast at the eliminations, but throughout the episode, it kind of just didn't go hand in hand. Like, I don't know what it was. It just didn't connect with me the way it should have connected with me this episode.
I don't think it should have connected with you, because it did not connect with me at all. I'm sorry if I wasn't being compassionate enough in this situation, but I was like, who cares? Like, you're still on the show. Like, you still have a shot at winning a lot of money. Like, just because he is gone doesn't mean that you need to go and like wither away. I can't do it without my man. Like, get out of here. Like, it's definitely not the storyline that I care for in this situation. And I don't necessarily even like them together. You know what I mean? So like the fact that like they've, she said that she's in love with him, right? I have so much love for that man, and that like I have no hate in my heart for him. And I was like, great that you got over it. Great that you guys moved forward. But like, I don't know, gather some of that dignity that you had before and like go out and perform for him if you must. But I was definitely disappointed in Naya this episode, and somebody in my comments was calling her, instead of Hurricane Naya, she's Light Breeze Naya.
That's really good.
I wish we could credit whoever said that, because that's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm also worried about Naya this deep into the season, heading into the finals. I worry for her what she's thinking about. How is she going to be able to perform in the finals? And then it looks like there's going to be partners portions in the finals, and I worry for whoever she's going to be partnered with at whichever leg, because I mean, it was tough to see her not want to go into the helicopter, get into the helicopter, and then completely just crumble. And it sucks. And one thing I do want to mention, because I was thinking about it while everybody else was talking, was that this is the first time in her challenge career that she is in the house longer than Jordan. And this is the first time she's actually playing the game without him in it. Granted, they didn't always see eye to eye in the seasons that they were on together, but every single season he's either outlasted her. Well, he did outlast her in the other 2 seasons, but there was portions where they were actually going to the end together in X's 2, and then she got DQ'd right before the finals. And then in free agents, she left via an elimination because Cara Maria beat her in Looper, and Jordan stayed a little bit longer before he was beaten by Bananas. So it's interesting that that's the kind of mentality I think that she's coming into. Like, she doesn't know the game without Jordan there.
She doesn't need
in
to
a
do
sense,
anything
which
at this
is
point.
weird.
It's just win. Like,
Yeah.
she this last elimination. Okay, she's afraid of heights. Fine, there's other people on the show that's been afraid of heights, but like the finals seemingly right next. Like that's where you just have to perform. You just have to run for a long period of time and like do a couple puzzles. Like, I don't know. She's not at the point where she has to do any politicking and where like her social game is going to come into play. Like, she's at the perfect point to be able to lose him so that she's not a target necessarily for being some super strong duo. So I wasn't feeling it at all. And I was just like, suck it up, get it together. And I wish Nehemiah could have given her some like some words to like knock her into like game mode, but it didn't seem to work, whatever he was saying.
Yeah, what really annoyed me is like, listen, having a legitimate fear of heights is fair. Like, certain people, certain things they just can't do. I didn't want her to black out or injure herself potentially, with the camera showing her eyes going open and, shutting and opening. And that was really good to give you a bit of a feel of the panic that someone may feel when they have a legitimate fear of heights when they're out there. And I didn't want her to get herself injured. But the thing that annoyed me is straight afterwards, when they're all standing there to see who's going to win the daily, she's saying, I should just quit. I feel like it's not even worth it anymore. That type of mentality is what really annoys me, because I get it. You want to quit the daily. Don't quit the whole show because of it. And like you guys already said, it's a beautiful storyline that they have made up and they're now good friends. Or I think that she is a little bit more in love with him than what he is. And maybe I'm wrong there, but I just don't think Jordan is going to settle there. I just don't see it. So I feel very fearful for her. She's going to get her heart broken in this whole relationship. And I think I picked it up even earlier in the season in one of the podcasts that we did as well. I feel like she's more emotionally invested than what he even is at this point. But the thing that for me annoyed me is the fact that she's wanting to quit. I want to take my hat off to Nehemiah and Brad this episode, because having to deal with Naya being in this mode must have been very difficult. And I think that if she was on a normal season with younger guys that are not as mature, they would not have had the same patience, because Nehemiah, there's no reason for Nehemiah to sit down and spend the time to keep her head in the game, but he did do that with her. And the same with Brad. I mean, Brad is one of the people for me that has grown on me the most, because I remember him from his early seasons, just being a meathead, to where he is now. I think that he's shown a lot of growth and maturity here as well. So I was very impressed with how he dealt with this whole situation. Dare I say, I'm becoming a big Brad fan at this point. So I might be joining the Drew club here when it comes to Brad.
You guys both are just, their beards are just never going to stop growing, because the love for Brad just continues on and on and on.
This is a Brad love podcast here.
You know what? I'm happy that I have him on my team, because I feel like I'm going to be going strong with him, rooting for him in the final. Yeah, Brad, I definitely really liked his approach. You can tell that he has children that he's probably had to maybe coerce into or coax into doing something, or encourage them to do something that they might be scared of. And so I saw that he really took like a kind hand to kind of help her through that. And I was really proud of her when she got onto the helicopter. And I just really hoped for her to just overcome that fear and jumped, because the fear leading up to it is never as bad as when you actually do it. And I just wanted her to have that experience of where she feels accomplished, where she felt like, oh my God, I did something that was so scared of, and I lived and I survived. I don't necessarily want to do it again, but like I overcame that fear. I really, really was hoping that she would allow herself to have that experience, but unfortunately, fear won.
Let's talk about probably the biggest topic, I think, for this episode, and it's going to be Victoria. She's going to go to the daily. She injured her foot, or more specifically, broke her toe when she was going down the stairs, of all things, and she gets pulled from the game, which, in hindsight, I'm not a medical advisor, so I can't talk to anything, in regards to this, and take with a pinch of salt, me being critical here. But why are we pulling someone that can still walk on that foot? Is kind of how I looked at it. There must be something very drastic or, very challenging coming ahead in the finals, where they were like, we can't even risk her having a broken toe. Because I feel like a broken toe is one of those things where you can like strap it up, get all the toes together in your boot, and you can still run on it and you can still move. Am I being too critical here? Like, I know Victoria would have wanted to
Veronica.
Like,
people are like, Victoria.
Sorry, Veronica. I know Veronica would have wanted to continue to go because she's a badass, right? She's won the show 3 times. But I just feel like pulling her at this point, it seemed like it was a little bit, Why are we pulling her here? Like, she can still walk.
Well, I was also making that comment, and people in my comments were saying it's probably from when they merged from with Viacom that there's new kind of insurance things that are being dealt with this new like merger. And so before, when Cara Maria was able to do the elimination with like the broken or sprained hand, and like we saw Jordan run that final on like, I don't know, broken ankle, like he broke his foot, I think, as well when he ran that final, and he still won. I think that the rules were a little bit looser back then. Like, they were able to probably sign and say like, I'm willing to still do this challenge despite being injured, but maybe that's been taken away now with maybe new rules and policies with the merger with Viacom. So that's kind of what I'm thinking must be it, because we have noticed that different rules have been taking place since that merger's happened. People are being cut out of episodes. We're not really seeing all the realness that we're used to from MTV. It's a little bit more glossed over. So I'm going to have to agree with the people in the chat that were saying that it was because of the Viacom merger.
Interesting, yeah. So Adrian here says, rewinded Chris, just say Victoria. Yes, I've got diarrhea of the mouth like Derek sometimes, I should be charged. But Drew, what was your thoughts on this, I guess, medical evac here in this episode? Maybe it's disappointing, is kind of what I'm getting at. I know that Victoria would have wanted to continue on. It's just disappointing seeing her go out like this.
Yeah, I kind of called it. I kind of knew that it was going to be coming down to this. I mean, once they zoomed in on the foot, I kind of had the feeling that she did more damage than what she was kind of leading on to. I did try to figure out try to look to see if she was hobbling at all, or she wasn't able to walk very well in the previous episode, like heading to the elimination. But she was able to walk fine. But just like Adrian said, I saw the picture that Veronica posted, and it was way worse than what I thought it was. Like, it was really bad. Like, her whole foot was almost bruised all the way up. So from her toe all the way up, just seemed really bruised. And it seemed like it was way worse than just like, oh, I kind of just tripped down the stairs. It looked really bad. So I just think that this means that there's going to be a ton of running in the finals, and they don't want to risk her doing any serious damage.
Like Melinda, basically.
Yeah, like Melinda, like MJ this season. So I think that they were more on the cautious side, and maybe they signed a 2-season deal with her or something, and she's willing to come back for another All-Star season. They're like, we'd rather you just take some time, heal up, so that way next season, after you like make it to a finals and then try to run for like 18 miles on phase 1 and then lose, then you come back 3 months later and your foot broken is way worse. Still. So
well, TJ kind of said, he's like, we really want you to come back. Like, I mean, he emphasized that, which I feel like with a lot of people he just goes through the motions. Hey, we'll see you maybe next time. But with him saying that, I think it's a given that if there is another All-Stars, they're going to try and get her back on the show. Do we know if she's someone that has a lot of commitments outside of the game? Because I know for a lot of the All-Stars, they have professional jobs. They've moved on from reality TV. It's not necessarily their full-time job. Do we think that commitment-wise, it's going to be difficult to get her back on the show, or do we think there's a good chance All-Stars 4 we might get her back?
I feel like she'll come back. It seems as though she has a lot more free time. I'll just say that without some spoilers. So
fair enough.
If she's willing to come back for a check that they cut for this season, I think that she would be willing to come back for another check for the next season. I mean, whether there's commitments or not, I mean, it's exposure to whatever business she has outside of the show. And then that's money banked in, just getting into your bank. If you show up and you're getting a fee. I mean, she is a 3-time champ. She's been there since way back. So why not?
Yeah. All right. Well, the daily challenge here was something called flight pattern. And I always get excited when they get the helicopter in. I know TJ loves it as well. It did look like some of the challenges got really excited. They had to go up on a helicopter, fly up over this lake, and then there were 2 floating patterns or boards with different color patterns that they had to copy, jump into the water, swim to these 2 different, I guess, stations where they had to reassemble the patterns in the right order. And it was an exciting one to watch. I enjoyed it. One of the more visually pleasing dailies that we've seen this season. I felt overall this season, there has been some hit and miss dailies for me where some has felt a little bit, dare I say, a little bit budget compared to the main show. It's just not as big of an, I guess, obstacle or an extravaganza. And that's kind of where the Challenge USA, which we've seen some early trailers, it looks like they're going to up the ante as well, budget-wise, with the dailies. How did you guys feel about this daily? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? I thought it was probably, it could have even been the best one for the season. Maybe the other one that I really enjoyed was the one where they had the balls and they had to run into the mud and kind of wrestle. But I do feel like there was a team element to it where different alliances could help each other out. Where with this one, it is purely on you, the individual, to get through the daily challenge as quickly as you can. And the fastest person there, they win. So there's no way to sabotage people based on alliances.
I thought this was like a kind of perfect challenge, basically. Like, it tests a bunch of different things. So firstly, it tests like, are you afraid of heights? Are you willing to jump into the water? Are you willing to jump into the water well enough so that you don't have to swim a super far distance? Like, also memorizing those color blocking and then recalling that memorized cubes and putting it back in order, and having a time element to it. So I thought that it really, if you're good at one, you could still probably possibly win, or if you're good at all of them, it's probably going to be more likely that you will be the winner here. But I think that it just gives a lot of opportunity to people that have multiple different skills and ability to still do well, even if they're not good at all of them. So I thought it was a really well-balanced challenge, and I enjoyed it for sure.
I think this daily challenge was fine. I mean, I don't think it was anything super special to write home about. I mean, it was a helicopter memorization and then swimming. I mean, it doesn't take that long to do it all. I think if this was done earlier in the season, we would have gotten a very big musical montage of everybody just falling into the water one after another and then putting the blocks in. Because this was so much later and they're really trying to elongate everything, everybody got their time during the daily. Everybody got their own musical cue. I think John A. and Wes had Fly Like a G6. So I mean, everybody had, I think Kellyanne and Mark had Walking on Sunshine. So I mean, everybody, they really had their fun time and taking their time. But I knew once we hit the 25-minute mark and we were just heading back to the house, I was like, we're not going to get an elimination, or we're going to get maybe half of the elimination. So I think that's what kind of soured me on this daily challenge, because it wasn't super exciting in my opinion. But then just knowing like, oh, we're heading towards a cliffhanger, and I could see it from 5 miles away.
What I was
to drive off of it.
My hint was, I'm like, when they emphasize making sure that the red line was the top of your puzzle, I was like, oh goodness, who is going to mess this up? And that's what I was waiting to see. Like, how disappointed am I going to be by who messes this up? Because that was a voiceover. They put that in after, I think, to make us like realize what the mistake was. So that's what I was looking out for.
Well, I think for me, what I liked it is it did again just show who are the people that are locked in this season and who is taking note of the smaller details, because that's going to be required when you run the finale. You know, you're going to have to be able to listen to instructions. Otherwise, you're going to do like some of the teams that last year and they would run in the wrong direction or completely mess up what they're supposed to be doing in the finale. So seeing Mark and Derek being the only two guys that finished this thing correctly was telling that Derek has come a long way this season. Like, you know, Chantel is starting to like him more, which is a massive, because she didn't like him that much in the first two seasons. And, you know, him being able to do this right while Wes gets it wrong, Nehemiah gets it wrong, and Brad gets it wrong, that to me is quite telling at this point in the game. So he probably deserves all the stars that he has. Now, I don't know if he's going to hold on to that stars, because we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but it's interesting to see that. And then obviously for the women, we've got Kellyanne and Janae, who both finished it, the pattern correctly, but Kellyanne had it, I believe, in the wrong angle, 90-degree angle. She didn't know where the red line was. So Janae ultimately wins it. And the other thing that really stood out for me here was Janae, when she dropped in, that helicopter seemed like it was closer to the platform for the man on her specific leg. And she ended up, I think it was Wes, she ended up having to swim quite a distance to get there. And a lot of people would have given up. A lot of people would have been like, oh man, I'm not going to get there in time. It looked like she was even fighting against the current potentially out there wherever she was swimming. But this shows us why Janae is a champion, and why I think she's going to be tough to beat going into a finale. She's won it once. She's got all the confidence right now, and she does not quit. So that's why I like the daily challenge. There was, we know a lot about these players because we see them come back season in and season out, but it is still good to see who's got their heads in the game. So Derek, Mark, and Janae take a bow. All of them performed extremely well here in this daily challenge in my mind.
Yeah, I was going to just say that not even like giving up in the swim, but the idea that she knew she was taking a long time in the swim, that by the time she would get to the platform, she could have freaked out and just thrown all of the colors anywhere and just was like, I'm so far behind Kellyanne's time, behind whoever's time. I got to hurry up and put the blocks in. But she stayed calm, cool, and collected after that long swim. She didn't seem fatigued. She didn't seem like she was just kind of like all over the place. She just did it, and she did a great job, and she was the only person to do it on the women's side. So I think it's very telling that Janae is locked in and everybody else is taking a back seat.
Yeah, I think so. And Adrian here says if Janae wins this season, if Janae wins this season, she's going to be the queen of all stars. So, and it's true because she would then have 2 wins. And at this point, it looks like the next episode we're probably heading into a finale. So she's probably going to get there somehow as well. Well, so the daily winners here ultimately is going to be Janae and Mark. We go back to the house, and now suddenly things are starting to change quite a lot here because throughout the season, you would have struggled to find someone who actually wants to go into the elimination. But this seemed to be the episode where everybody realized the stars are still up for grabs. We need to go in there and potentially control our own fate. And we get all the girls going to Janae at different times saying that they're happy to go down there and prove themselves. Were you guys surprised by this? For me personally, I wasn't. Janae seemed surprised by the fact that all the girls wanted to go in, and she thought that they would want to be scared, and even mentioned to Naya they're scared to go in. But who's scared to go in at this point? You either win the stars and have an advantage in the final, or you don't at this point. There's not much else I think you can do. You have to kind of volunteer going in here. So it seemed like everybody had the right plan.
I think it's kind of a mindset game. If you know that you're going down and you know who you're going to call, you kind of, even if you know there's a high likelihood that the person is going to call you down, it's still a different feeling going down in that regard, as opposed to like being ready, being ready mentally, knowing who your opponent is, and you're already going to be able to like visualize, you winning and stuff like that. So I think that it's just a more powerful position to know that you're going down. And so that's probably why all the women knew that they're going to end up having a 50-50 chance that they're going to be pulled down. Called down. So they might as well be the person that is calling who they want to go up against and get to decide with whatever you could see what the elimination is going to be.
I have a theory that because Veronica medically DQ'd, all the women knew that there might not be an elimination, but after the daily challenge where everybody was playing for Veronica's star, that maybe they thought maybe they could be playing for an extra star to help them in the elimination. So that's why all the women were like, I'll go in. If you want me to go in, I'll go in. I mean, I'll try it. I mean, we'll just see how it goes kind of thing. I mean, we do have stars that were left up on the table, from Tina having to be medically DQ'd, Jemmy having a family emergency and having to be DQ'd from the season. So I wonder if that was on their minds and they're like, well, maybe I could get an extra star or 2 as we're heading to the finals.
Yeah, I did not even think about that, but it makes sense that there's still some stars up for grabs. I was surprised that they actually followed through with the women going down there to actually battle it out, because I expected TJ to say the normal, well, we lost the women again this round, so you guys don't have to come down and prove yourself. So I was surprised to see that. So that makes sense to a certain degree. We also get this whole big, Wes part here where he's talking to Nehemiah saying, hey, it's going to be one of us, we're going to go down there. Do you want to go down? Nehemiah says he'd rather not risk it. He doesn't think the stars is going to be all that important, but Wes, obviously being Wes, is like, I'll go down, I'll go get the stars. And he needs someone that he can balance his thoughts off, because he feels like, Nehemiah and Brad, they're his homeboys, but they're not giving him a good enough sounding board in the game. So he goes to phone Bananas. How did you guys feel about this whole scene? I absolutely, personally, I know some people said, we didn't want to see Bananas again. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I love the dynamic between Wes and Bananas. I'm so glad that we live in a universe where these 2 guys have finally become friends, because they are comedic gold together whenever they're on the screen.
I enjoyed it. And like, I know the whole gag was that he was wearing the thong. Like, that was the whole reason for this phone call, is for him to bend over 2 times in a thong.
Wes
But
didn't
it
see it
was
coming.
fine. I enjoyed
Wes
it.
did not see that coming. Like, his face when that happened is like, what? That was brilliant.
It was great. I like, we did, like, I can't believe they named the whole episode "Going Bananas," and that was what we got from it. Like, I thought he would be a mercenary or give some. I guess he did give some advice, but like, I thought he would have a little bit more of an important role. But I thought it broke up the episode. I thought it was fun. I'm wondering how much you think that he got paid for that little cameo, if anything.
He would have gotten something, I'm sure, or the guarantee, partner of his choice coming back
For
this next
38,
season.
right?
They would have given him something, right, Drew?
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is like Wes knows how to play this game, and he knows what we, the audience, wants to see. I mean, he said it in the daily challenge. He doesn't care about the money. He wants to win. He wants the notoriety. He wants that title. So he knows that if we, the audience, would want to see, we would want to see Wes and Bananas talking on the phone for a little bit. We want to see a good elimination, and he's willing to take that risk. And so that's why I really like Wes, especially this season, because it's just a different mindset. I mean, a lot of these players are coming in. It's very serious for them. They could really use the money, and I'm sure everybody could use the money. But Wes just knows, like, I want to play the game how I want to play it, and I want to be like a producer on top of being a player. And it's really refreshing. I agree with Chantel that it broke up the episode. I saw a bunch of like mixed emotions about the phone call. Some people called it overproduced. They thought it took away from the episode, that it was over the top. And then some people just loved it because they loved the camaraderie between the two. And to me, I loved it because it did break up the episode. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't have had that laugh out loud moment that I had multiple times when I watched this. I will say the one thing I did hate about it is how much money did Bananas win on this daggone show? And he has the worst audio ever. Like, dude, spend $100 and get a Blue Yeti at least, or a snowball, something. Like, it was just poor audio quality that they did, and it was just bad. It was bad audio, but at least we could hear everything. And to me, I haven't seen people laugh like that on the challenge in a long, long time. And when Bananas got up and Wes was like belly laughing, I felt like that was genuine, and I really enjoyed it.
No, I think it. I mean, obviously the whole who are you going to phone, Wes, and Wes talking to Mark outside. Well, I just need to make a personal phone call. I think that part seemed acted to me. But then when he went in there to have the conversation, I think the interaction was legitimate. I don't think it was like played out beforehand. Wes did not see the thong coming. He had a legitimate shock and surprise when he saw that. And you know what this reminded me of? I've always said Wes, in a lot of ways, reminds me of Dr. Will from Big Brother. There's just that something about him, his charm and cheekiness, that reminds me of Dr. Will, who's my favorite reality TV star of all time. And him and Bananas talking here kind of reminded me of Chilltown with Boogie and Will in the diary room with a phone, having a laugh because everybody doesn't know what they're doing. It's just really cool to see these two interact in such a way. And I will say, Johnny Bananas won't pick up the phone for everyone, So if he picks up the phone for you phoning him to ask some advice, that is saying something. There is some mutual respect that has been found between these two in the game at the moment. And I just loved seeing it. It was so much fun. And like you guys said, broke up things a little bit in this episode. But Mark, ultimately, I think is going to make the right decision here. He's got to choose between all the boys that are left in the game. Who's he going to put down there? And obviously he wants to give Derek the best possible shot at winning the elimination. And he chooses to put Derek in there so Derek can make a choice of who he's going to bring back down. The thing that was the most telling for me in this whole scenario was how Brad was somehow still golden. Because I know this is a Brad Love podcast, but again, how well has Brad positioned himself in this game? We're still, even at this point, no one's looking at him. No one's going to throw him down there. His gamble of not wanting to go for stars might blow up in his face in the end because we don't know what that's going to be about. But I've got to say, socially and strategically, Brad has played a very solid game because, again, here, he's not at risk, and Derek is going to go in, and obviously he's going to choose either Naya or Wes going into the elimination.
Well, I don't think that stars should be a determining factor of whether or not you win or lose the season in the finale, in the final. Because, like, if you're winning the whole time, you will not be going down into elimination. And so the purpose of each daily is to win. So you have the power of the sabotage and who you're sending in at the second half of the season. So, like, the fact that some people didn't ever see an elimination, they shouldn't be penalized in the final for that. And they haven't told them what these damn stars mean. So I really, if they do that, I will actually be upset. That it's kind of like how Casey in 37, how her team lost, and then she went up against her girlfriend in an elimination, and then was able to pick her favorite team like partner. Like, she should have gotten maybe her second choice, but like she shouldn't have been able to get first choice because she wasn't winning the whole time. She lost, and then she won out of the losers. So it's a similar situation to that. I don't think that if you lost or like you went down into the elimination and won some stars, that you should be able to have an advantage over someone that won more dailies.
Yeah.
I 100% agree, because I think somebody mentioned it in my comment section last week, and I had to think about it going, yeah, that does seem like a weird advantage. Like, I can understand where the challenge is like, we don't want people skating by, so that we want them to go into elimination. But if you play a fantastic game, winning a ton of daily challenges, and being able to have a great social game to keep yourself out of eliminations, shouldn't that be rewarded as well? Like, why couldn't the people who won the daily challenges getting stars is another thing? Like, maybe the elimination, somebody could get the sabotage, while the first place daily challenge winner could have gotten stars, whether it was 6 people in the authority or one person winning in the authority. I felt like maybe that would have been a better way to handle it, because I do think that it is kind of like a backhanded compliment, almost, in a way of like, Brad, you played such an amazing game. You didn't go into a single elimination, but you're going to be penalized for it. So you didn't go into any eliminations, which is weird.
But it would be different if they told them the value of the stars in the beginning, because then you could choose whether or not, like, how you played the game. Most likely you're not going to want to go down and risk your game, but at least if you knew that, oh, maybe I should take this risk with this person, or maybe I'll allow this person to win. Like, a little more strategy could happen with how you shake around with the power and who you throw down, because like, oh, if I know what the value of these stars are, I don't want that person getting some power. Let's throw this person down instead. So like, if that person gets the power, like, we're okay with that. So I feel like they're deciding, they haven't decided yet what the stars do. Like, I don't know, but if it really penalizes somebody that's been winning a lot and has a social game that's keeping them out of eliminations, like, I will be very annoyed.
Yeah, and also, if you know what the stars are going to do from the start of the season, it keeps the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists at bay, where they won't say, oh, they just waited to see Wes have the most stars, and now they decided it's going to be very powerful because we want Wes to win. Or Wes didn't get any stars, so now we've decided we're going to make the stars less powerful because we want Wes to win. As an example, it keeps people at bay because everybody knows these are the rules that we're playing by throughout the whole season. They couldn't game it, make it less powerful or more powerful, depending on who they want to win at the end. And I think that's a key thing for me here. I like Wes' explanation of what he was going to do with the stars, being in Mario Kart, throwing the stars back to sabotage everybody behind him as well. And Drew's got it there on his board. I saw someone, I think it was Lovable Nikki earlier, saying that she loves the chalkboard today there, Drew, as well. So I didn't really play Mario Kart. I'm assuming that is an icon from Mario Kart, right?
Yes, it is the blue shell.
Nah.
Yeah, no. I was about to say, what? It's like my favorite game ever. But hey, that's the blue turtle shell. You get it if you're in last place and you throw it, and then you hit whoever's in first place, and they like spin out, and then they lose first place.
So, do you think TJ was a fan, and that's why they brought in?
Yes, TJ 100% was a fan, because that was his era. Like, it's a little bit, it's a little bit older, but like, I loved Mario Kart. I passed that like thousands and thousands of times. I would play at like all levels and just go through the whole thing. That did you play Super Mario Brothers?
I did play Super Mario Brothers.
Did you do all
I
the
just never played
codes?
Mario
I was
Kart.
talking about this recently. All the codes, like, was it up, down, left, right, start was something? Like, I think it was to fall behind the screen. I remember all
games
these,
used to be so much harder back in the day compared to now. Like, I feel like back then, you know, you couldn't save properly. You go through 1 or 2, 3 levels. You had to like play it in one sit through. It was a different genre, you know, a different time of gaming. I feel like compared to now.
I don't fully remember, but like I definitely would spend hours, and I probably would go from beginning to end. And yeah, I think it was Mario 3 that you could start saving.
All
I
right,
think.
all right.
Remember with the feather? Anyways.
I will say that I also think that if you say what the stars mean earlier, you don't get people's hopes up. So if they come back and it's like nothing, like, oh, you get 5 seconds head start for every star that you have. So whoever has like 5 stars can get 20 seconds head start. Then people are like, well, that sucked. That was the worst twist in challenge history. So I think also you should put it out there, because now we have this like 9-episode lead in of what do these stars mean? What do these stars mean? They keep on saying stars, stars, stars. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you get to pick your team color as you're running down the thing, or you can pick your bandana color or something. It's like, well, that kind of was anticlimactic.
Can anything be worse though than All Star Season 2? Day 1, they do all of the first phases. They do all these challenges. They run for 8 hours, do everything to get a 10-minute head start. Like,
no,
I mean,
1 minute. I thought it was 1 minute.
1 minute was even less. Like, I mean, I don't think there can be anything
long.
worse than that. Like, surely production has to look at this. Like, if this happens again this season, I don't know. Like, I would lose faith in All Stars as a concept if they have another final like that. They really need to do better. They really need to do better.
They know
I'm really fearful.
on the fence with me, or I'm on the fence with them. Like, guys,
yeah,
make me angry.
I do want to bring up before we move on to Mark's decision of deciding to go in Derek. I'm going to put it out there. I think he made the wrong decision. And I'm going to be very critical of this decision, because just from what happened last episode or the previous episode where Derek won, and then he's telling Derek, you got to throw in Jordan before the finals. We got to take our shot. And then Derek's like, but what if he picks you? And he goes, I don't care. I'll either lose to him now or I'll lose to him in the finals. So just put Jordan down there. And then throughout this whole season, he's been saying, Wes is a big threat. Wes is a big threat. Wes is a big threat. Come down to this point. If you throw in Wes, he's 100% going into an elimination and possibly going home. Or you throw in Derek, who may not pick him. And then now we have Nehemiah versus Derek, 2 players that may not do much of anything in a finals if either one of them makes it into it. So it's like, you need to take your shots when you need to take the shots. And I think he should have just been like, well, come on, bro, like grab your huevos and you're going to go into the elimination against Wes, because I'm calling down Wes and you need to take him out. I took out Jordan. Now it's your turn to take out Wes. That's just my personal opinion. If he really did feel that Wes was a huge threat in this game, he should have just taken the shot at Wes, and we would have gotten what we really wanted to see. But that's just my opinion.
No, I think it's a valid opinion. It's interesting you mentioned that, because I've been looking at it the whole time when I watched the episode twice now. I looked at it from Derek's point of view, not Mark's point of view. You know, so I was like, for Derek, it made sense to go down there and have the choice of who he wants to go up against. But for Mark, definitely, I agree with you. You want the person who you think is your biggest competition to go down there. Obviously, his friendship with Derek, which seems to be a very legitimate friendship, got in the way of that. And he made a decision that would work for Derek more so than himself. So I agree with that. Chantel, how do you feel about the ultimate decision here and the way that it sort of played out?
I mean, I definitely see your points, but I think that it was riskier to Mark, like having Wes go down for sure, and most likely calling out Derek and being in that power position of like, I'm calling you down, I'm taking you out. And I think that he wanted to give Derek the opportunity to call who he felt most comfortable in beating. So I think that he didn't want to risk Derek's game, because I'm sure that he wants to run with Derek, because I think that he thinks he could beat Derek. And I think that he was more likely to believe that Wes would call him down and Wes would also beat him. And so I think that he just didn't want to have that on his conscience. Like, I think that he was like, hey, like, would you rather like Wes call you down and or would you rather you pick who you want to go against? And he probably said the latter. He could have also been maybe loosely protecting Brad as well, because depending on what the actual elimination was, like maybe if Brad was somebody that he thought that he could beat more easily than Derek, maybe Brad would have been called down, and maybe he didn't want to have two people at risk of maybe going in, as opposed to Derek definitely calling out somebody that's not Brad, and it's going to be either Nehemiah, who finished, though he went to the last final and he did finish, and Wes, who's also very strong. So I think he wanted to give his boy the chance to pick his opponent and didn't want to risk him being taken out by Wes.
Yeah, no, I agree. This comment from Lovable Nikki saying, in addition to Drew's point, Derek has been talking about a pole wrestle rematch with Wes for years. I know that on his podcast, he said many a times, he'd love to go back in the ring with Wes. He'd love to take him on in a pole wrestle. Here's the opportunity for you to do what you've said for so long you're going to do if you get the opportunity. And you take what you perceive to be the easiest route out by going against Nehemiah, which I think, again, I understand Derek is a legend at the game when it comes to pole wrestle. He's proven himself many a times, but I think Nehemiah is going to bring a different beast here in this game. Like, he is woken up by that comment. He definitely said the wrong thing choosing Nehemiah there. But the annoyance that I felt, I was screaming at my screen when he chose Nehemiah. I was like, I want to see Wes. Wes wants to take you on. We want to see the rematch. You see, if Wes was there, Wes would have picked Derek because he understands that this is what the fans want to see. They want to see the grudge match. They want to see the rematch. And Derek here is proving why he's not. This is why he didn't stay on the challenge for years and years. He's not aware of what would make a good show. Like, I mean, for the show's sake, he should have taken Wes here. I was so annoyed here when he didn't take him.
I was definitely really annoyed that he didn't take him, because I'm like, but I think the reason why he didn't is that he's so close to the final. Like, we saw at the beginning of the episode him talking with Mark, like, we're playing like a magical game. Like, look at this game that we're playing. We're so close. We're both gonna be able to run it together. So I think that going against Wes was the odds that he would win were a little bit lower than with Nehemiah. Not to say that Nehemiah is someone that's going to be easy for him to beat, but I think that he was more scared of losing to Wes so close to the final that he was just taking the risk of like going against Nehemiah to ensure that there's a more likelihood for him to get to the final. But I was pissed.
So I'm most annoyed with both the editing team for this episode and Derek. And I'm sorry if I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, because I was going to write all of this down, but I just didn't do it. But how in the editing do you make us watch highlights of Derek versus Wes in the duel twice, at least twice, and then Derek, upon TJ saying, who do you want to go up against? And Derek, we get a shot of Derek in the confessional saying, oh, I can't wait to kick Wes's ass tonight in this elimination. And then in 2 seconds picks Nehemiah saying, quote unquote, I want the easier route for me to get to the finals. Let me take us on a journey to season 31, Vendettas, back 4 years ago. Derek comes in as a mercenary, has to go against a man sculpted on Mount Olympus, but was raised in London, to then have to take him on, going 19 rounds, an hour and a half, against a man who is taller, buffer, better looking, and younger than him, and yet take him down in an hour and a half. And Derek is like the king of the world. He feels immaculate. He feels invincible. Jumping 4 years later, going to an elimination where he could give us what we've been wanting for a long time, and that is Wes versus Derek in another pole wrestle to see who would win at this point. And Derek says, I quote, I want the easy route for me to make it to a finals. This is where we get to All-Stars 1, where he gets purged right in the beginning of the finals. All-Stars 2, he loses early in the season, to where he is now conditioned in All-Stars 3 to be shaking in his boots at the thought of possibly going up against Wes in a pole wrestle this far in the finals. We've talked about how we feel Derek has changed as a competitor. We're seeing a different Derek, but what's the what are we seeing? What's been different about him? In All Stars 2, oh, he's just a little cocky. He has a little bit of an attitude. He's trying to change his personality, but he'll come back in All Stars 3. He'll be different. He'll be the guy that we know him to be back in Gauntlet 2, where he goes up against Cyrus in Beach Brawl. He picks Beach Brawl, a literal David versus Goliath. He should have picked anything but Beach Brawl, but he does, and he takes out Cyrus. Going back to Vendettas, taking on Joss, and then winning against him against all odds. And now coming into this season, and he says, quote, "I want the easy route." I'm going to tell you right now, that hurt. I mean, I'm not a huge Derek fan at this point because he's kind of been letting me down a little bit in these All-Stars, but just hearing that kind of hurt my soul. It's kind of like when you watched a WWE superstar or an athlete on your TV that you just like iconized. He's a legend. He's done so many things that you just put in your brain as like all-time highlights of this sport. And then you turn around and he's at a used car lot trying to sell you a 2011 Ford Taurus to you
My
and your sister.
heroes
And you're like, what happened to you? You wanted to take the easy route? I'm just throwing this out there. Derek has changed. And I'll throw this out there real quick. If you are somebody who is a Derek stan but criticizes Veronica because she's never been able to win in the modern form of the challenge, I'm gonna tell you right now, Derek is the man version of Veronica. He's won 3 team challenges and he hasn't been able to stand up in the modern form. So if you're criticizing Veronica but rooting for Derek, guess what? You're rooting for the same kind of person on paper, at least. Derek just has a bit flashier highlights. I'm just throwing that out there. And yeah, that's it, I think.
Wow.
What I was going to say, just to kind of jump on what you're saying, is I think that the producers also were let down by that decision in the moment. They're like, oh, yeah, we could have the rematch. It'll be Wes versus Derek. Like, yeah, we'll give them pole wrestle, but we'll change it up. We'll put make it on fire. Like, but like they probably were like, yes, he's gonna know what to do. Like, if we were giving the same opportunity to Wes would know what to do. Like, whether he wins or lose. So with Wes, whether he wins or lose, he's willing to make the producer's dream decision for the storyline of the show. And Derek is not willing to do that because he wants to get to that final and win. So he has different motivations than Wes does, but I 100% think that the producers were like, we kind of just gave you a perfect moment that if you lost, that would have been epic. And if you won, that would have been epic. Like, we're creating moments here. If you want to be called back, you got to create moments. And not that one. That was a flop.
That's what I was going to end on, is if Derek would have more on the season and have more of an impact on this season, calling out Wes and even losing against Wes in a pole wrestle, than him beating Nehemiah, making it to a finals and getting 3rd place. Because that's where I have him coming in 4th or 3rd place in a finals against who's left. So to me, it was a huge missed opportunity. He could have punched his ticket to any number of All-Star season that he wanted to come on to if he would have just picked Wes. And yes, he probably could have lost. And there was a good possibility, maybe. But
who knows?
It's just super disappointing.
The thing is, who knows? It's 15, 16 years later. Yes, Wes is in great shape, but Derek has proven, like you said, against a bigger opponent than Wes, that he can actually take someone on that is bigger in stature than himself. But, you know, I just wanted to say, Drew, you woke up and chose violence today with those comments against Derek. It was basically, you just said, this is where Derek, you know, RIP Derek, to when it comes to the challenge, you're done. You're basically done. We don't want to see you back at this point. You've given us as much as you can. And I've got to say, I feel like the producers of the show, to a certain degree, they would have been like, bank the money on Derek to make the big ball play, because he always does. And he didn't do it. And that's why they casted him on the show, I'm sure, when they brought him back. And I don't think he did himself any favors. Like, obviously, he's friends with a lot of people. Him and Mark, maybe Mark can pull some strings to get him back on there. But I don't feel like he's the first person that they ring for All-Stars 4 at this stage with this move. And, you know, Wes was us in this moment. He was besides himself, pissed off and angry that he did not get the opportunity to go down there against Derek. He was gagging for it. He wanted this pole wrestle. He wanted Derek's stars. And the way that he hyped up Nehemiah, saying, you know, make sure that he does not have a family to go back to. Like,
people got really mad at that comment. I didn't even understand it.
he got really intense. He got really intense as well. But obviously, this is sports. If you've ever played NFL or like I play rugby, like a contact sport, this is how you hype people up to get into that mode. And Nehemiah's saying that people think that he chooses to become to protect himself in the game, but he's actually doing that. He's keeping the monster intact to protect other people in the game. So, and we've seen Nehemiah bring that side out. Like I will never forget him and Tech having words back and forth in All Stars 1 where he's like, "Oh, you want to go?" I could see in his eyes there's a different animal locked in Nehemiah that he keeps away. And I think we're going to be seeing this unleashed. So they let us down twice here, Drew. I agree with you. They let us down with all of the flashbacks to that previous pole wrestle. Derek saying, "I'm going to choose him," and then he doesn't. So you're like, oh, this is a letdown. And then the second letdown is, oh, we're not even going to see Nehemiah and Derek do the pole wrestle. So they really left us. I mean, there's a lot for us to be upset about. It makes for an entertaining podcast seeing the three of us come in here and be like, we're so frustrated. But from an audience perspective, I really feel like it just felt really flat towards the end of this episode.
So I have a few theories as to why there was a cliffhanger. So one theory is the fact that we're not going to enjoy the outcome of both of these pole wrestles, and so that they don't want us to be going into the final on a sour note. So with that would be that Nehemiah would maybe lose and that Kellyanne would lose to Kayla. So that was my first reasonings was to why I thought that maybe they did the cliffhanger, because like we're not going to be super happy and pumped up to get into the final, because those are two people that I really, really want to see in there. The second thought, though, was it seems, because I thought that they would have had the women go first, and then they had the men started, and then it was the cliffhanger. So another thought that I think someone in my comments mentioned was that maybe they didn't allow for the women somebody to go home. They let them do the pole wrestle or whatever. But the outcome was, because we lost Veronica, that nobody actually out of the women's side was to go home, but they didn't want to reveal that. So it could be a mixture of both of those things. Or not, neither, but like those are the two thoughts that I was kind of considering as to why they had this cliffhanger.
Yeah, I think that's very possible on either end. I knew when the men went, I knew that the women weren't going to be anyone was going to be eliminated, but I thought the play would have been something to do with like you're playing for an extra star or something, because I think that would have been a lot better of a cliffhanger.
That might be what's going to happen too, and they just didn't want to spoil that.
Well, that's why I kind of wanted it to be like we get to see the Derek versus Nehemiah elimination. Then TJ turns over to Kayla and Kellyanne, go, look, you guys are going to be going up against each other. Now we won't have a women's elimination. And so like they get all excited, and all of a sudden he's like, but there's something else you could fight for tonight. And then that's when they're like, okay, let's go for it, or something to that effect. But I thought that would have been a better
do a pole wrestle right before the final, though. Like, I'd be like, you know what? I don't know if that star is going to be worth me like banging and bruising up my entire body before running for 2 days. So I probably would have been like, can I say no?
Yeah, it's kind of like when CT and Big T were teamed up against Kyle and Cam a couple of seasons ago, and they had to like wrestle for a ball or something. Can't remember exactly what it was. And CT was like, "Yeah, I'll pretend like I'm fighting back, but I know Big T's not going to win, so I'll let Kyle win this one." Because I agree with you. If there's no risk of going home, they're probably going to go straight into a final from this, and your body's going to have limited time to recover to be right for when you run the final. So you've got to think about it. And then the track record of the challenge has been that whatever the twist of the season is, it's normally not really that beneficial for you to get the stars. Like, so I know we're really bagging on this before we see it play out, but
it's probably going to be choose your partner. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what they could do that's not terrible for the person that's been winning the most this season.
Yeah, but the women are going to fight for it, because I feel like Kayla and Kellyanne both are prideful and they're not going to want to lose to the other one. So I think they'll fight for it.
But I don't think it will be as like
intense,
Yeah.
Well, I'm just like intrigued, because I was actually surprised that they actually showed both Kayla and Kellyanne kind of like gripping onto the pole, because coming into this I was like, he's gonna just say swerve, there's no women's elimination, but instead you actually see Kellyanne actually putting on a full length, full arm t-shirt because she was wearing her tank top. So they actually had her put on a shirt underneath her tank top, and then they got the helmets on. So I was actually very surprised, meaning that they're going to go through with it. It would just be the absolute bummer if they were just like, all right, we're still going to have a women's elimination, and then they do what Big T did in the Challenge 37.
That's
somebody
like
just comes back and goes, what? They're telling me to come back out here. I never would.
Well, I could see them doing that maybe, and like say horror, but Kayla loses, or sorry, Kellyanne loses, and she leaves, and then they're like, actually, no elimination tonight because Veronica went home, and we need an even number of men and women, and then she gets to stay. So maybe they could do that, and they probably didn't want to spoil that as well, so that's why they had the cliffhanger.
Yeah, I know we haven't spoken too much about the ladies specifically because there was so much around Wes, but how do you guys think Kayla and Kellyanne will stack up against each other here? Because I feel like Kellyanne, she's gonna be going all, she's gonna go full throttle ahead here against Kayla. I know Kayla's decent at running and she's got endurance and she's done well this season in the dailies, but I feel like Kellyanne is more of a scrapper for me personally. So I feel like I would sort of tilt towards Kellyanne taking this one out.
I'm hoping that it's Kellyanne, obviously, because I just can't have smug Kayla like take out Kellyanne, especially earlier on in the episode when Kayla and Jonay were just like everything that Kellyanne was doing. She's doing yoga now. Like I was like, she does yoga. Like it's something that she does in her regular life. And so why are you guys being these mean girls are just like kind of attacking everything that she does just because you don't want to be friends with her? And so I just couldn't have Kayla having the satisfaction of taking out Kellyanne. Like that would just drive me crazy. I do think that Kellyanne is a lot scrappier. If you go back to her older seasons on the show, like she's definitely a fighter. We talked a bit about how when it was her and Sarah doing that final, I can't remember what the season was called, and she's good. Like she's willing to like get dirty and push herself. I don't remember a time where she's really ever quit, and I feel like Kayla has quit in her. So I'm hoping that Kellyanne can get Kayla to tap out.
Yeah, I saw that Mean Girls, obviously myself and Drew both big Janae fans. I didn't like that because I felt like it was unnecessary. Like there is no reason to comment on Kellyanne just sitting there minding her own business at that point. But I really hope Kellyanne, because she's been on the outside of the house looking in the whole season. I feel like she hasn't really had her crew. Or if she did, we didn't get to see much of that. That's my biggest criticism of this season, by the way. Like just seeing Wes play pool, walking around, having a chat with Kellyanne, like a little bit of those just day-to-day interactivities that people have out there. We just didn't see them just having fun at times as well. Like this was really, we need to focus. And I love strategy. I love big gameplay and that kind of stuff. But I feel like the balance have gone almost too game body to a certain degree this season. And maybe it is because they hyped it up as the best All-Star season yet when we came into this, which has it really been the best All-Star season yet? We will have to wait and see how the finale plays out. I'm still 50-50. I still think season one for me was the one I enjoyed the most at this point. I actually really enjoyed season one.
No, I'm a season 2 girl for sure. I don't think the season stacks up. I can't stand it when people go home for any other reason than an elimination. And so the fact that we've had 3 medical DQs and one person had to leave on their own, like for their family issues, it taints the season for me, right? Like I was really excited by the dynamics of the people that were in there, seeing how it would play out naturally, and it just didn't get to play out as it was supposed to when everybody was cast. So I don't see how for me it could be the best season. And with the people left, it could only be the best season, I think, maybe if Kellyanne and Wes win.
Yeah,
I think that's the only way that it would be the best season. And maybe like they have to work together in like the final round and they talk about their relationship, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's something comes full circle there, but I don't know how it could be the best season because all those DQs.
Well, it's funny because, they took away power from Wes this round and they were all laughing at him because he was sulking and upset about the fact that he couldn't choose who was going to go down there. So the ultimate revenge for Wes would be, well, you guys thought you took power away from me, suckers, but I came into the final and I won. So now he's the fools, So that would be entertaining to watch. But yeah, as a whole, I don't think it's stacked up for me yet, Drew.
I will say that I'm kind of out until the ending to this season. Right now, I feel like I like a lot of things out of all the All-Star seasons, and a lot of them have ways that they could have improved on each other. Like I think season 1, for it being the first one, I loved the vibe of it and I loved what they were able to do with it. I think season 2 had way better challenges, I think, and it was hotly contended compared to season 1. Now
And a
season
hot
1 also had the
single.
better final. What?
And then a hot single. Safety
I mean, yeah.
Safety Palace.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they have the best soundtrack so far. And then season 3, I think, has the best cast out of either two, but I think the editing and the execution has really fallen short this season. We talked about it. I mean, Jordan and Wes were back on a season together and they barely spoke, or we at least barely saw them speak to each other. And yet they were working together possibly in certain daily challenges, but we never got any context to it, which was weird. Yeah, so I don't know if I can pinpoint exactly which one is better yet. I guess if I'm saying vibe and the final, then season 1, I would give it to season 1 comparatively to season 2. But I just thought season 2 was way better
abysmal.
Contended, and I liked the strategy and the alliances and the single. And but this season I think has a lot more memorable moments. It's weird though, because I'm going back over everything of the trailer and there's so much that was cut out that I'm still waiting to see Wes in his underwear eating Nutella. And so I'm just waiting for that moment. We just haven't gotten it yet. So I wonder if he's going to bulk up on Nutella before he's heading into the finals. Possibly. I will say this. I just want to throw this out there. Challenge Wiki has everybody who is not in the elimination already made it into the finals. Like they already branded them into the finals. So I'm just throwing that out there. It is fan made and fan ran, that page, but everybody but Kellyanne, Kayla, Derek, and Nehemiah have a finals next to their names.
Interesting.
So
okay,
they're already saying that they've made it into the finals. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that they completely left out, you mentioned, Wes standing there in his underwear eating Nutella. We also didn't see Wes saying this interview is over, I'm done, walking out from Bananas, which was like a real big misdirect earlier in the season as well. So there's clearly certain things they stage for the camera to make us want to watch a little bit more, I guess. It looks like there's someone there, Chantel, on your side.
I don't know. I heard something fall, but I'm trying to figure out what it was. I don't know what it was.
We've got the Big Brother Canada winner coming in there to have a chat with you again.
Not today. Did I tell you though that he did come and knock on my door and I went and hung out with him? Okay,
that's awesome. That's so cool. I guess the only thing left for us here to really go into for this episode, and it kind of feels almost like null and void now, but we'll still have a look at it, is our draft teams and maybe the points. If you want to run us through the points and where we're sitting heading into the final 2 episodes of the season.
Yeah, so the only person to leave this week was Veronica because of her DQ. At this point, we have Team Chris in 3rd place, getting a total of 11 points this past week. Naya did not help you that much as she DQ'd, got -2 points, but got a couple of confessionals. She has 44 points. Kellyanne has the most points on your team with 51 points. And then Team Chantel is in 2nd place with her 2 players now left with Nehemiah and Brad. She went up about 13 points. So it went from 225.5 points to 238.5 points. And then I'm in 1st place right now with John A as my leading scorer at 67.5 points. We have Mark with 57.5 points. Wes just cracked into the 50s with 51 points. Derek has 51 points, and Kayla has 44 points. So I went from 347.5 to 390.5 in 1st place.
He's just, he's got our heads in the ground, just like pushing down at the moment. But I will say, this season and the pain of this season on the draft side of things, because I still enjoyed watching the show, but on the draft side of things is nearly done for both me and Chantel. I don't know if we can catch up here. We've got a whole new season of the Challenge USA that's going to happen. Obviously the draft picks have already been made. Did you guys see the updated promo? Because there was different promos running this week. There was one that definitely caught my eye because it said we're going to have players from the US, we're going to have players from Australia, we're going to have players from the UK and Argentina, and also Legends of the Challenge going at it for the title. So they're changing their tune, and they had CT and Bananas in the promo when they said Legends of the Challenge. So I'm starting to wonder
if they'll be,
I don't know if anybody else saw that. Will they actually
playing
include challenge legends? Will they put champions in there? That could be very exciting. And I think that's what the fans want.
Well, maybe they're not that happy with whoever won the US.
The US? They're like, oh, they're not going to carry the US for us. We need to get Bananas and CT on.
It's possible. I haven't seen it, though.
It could be worrying about the viewership of like the trailer. Maybe they're seeing the viewership of the trailer not doing as well. I know that I did the cast reveal and the shot for shot trailer breakdown of one of the trailers, the first trailer that viewed, and it did not do as well comparatively to other challenge seasons that I've done of those shot for shot breakdowns and everything. So I wonder if they're trying to now help out by gathering new viewers from CBS and everywhere else, but also trying to like bridge the gap between the MTV fandom that is longtime challenge fans, to kind of bridge it together and be like, well, this could be a good compromise, right?
I think that the like true MTV fans are a little insulted. Like it's a little bit insulting that they just kind of stole the concept, stole our idea, and give it to some other new people. And I don't know, if I wasn't in the podcasting world, I might have boycotted as well. You know, I might have been like, no, I don't feel like seeing this. Like, I might have been annoyed by it. I'm allowing myself definitely to get hyped just because I know all the people that are going to be competing on it. I do enjoy the challenge format. But I could definitely see people that are not necessarily fans of CBS's shows being like, meh, I'm not really down with them stealing MTV's idea. So maybe that's what they are trying to do, is trying to be like, hey, MTV fans, how about you come over and watch our show too? I don't know if it's going to have it the same vibe, though.
I'm going to go look for that trailer that I saw so I can link it to you guys in a DM afterwards, because I saw that and I was immediately, I'm like, no one's talking about this. I don't think Drew said anything about this. I didn't hear anything from Chantal, but I'm noticing Legends of the Challenge, and I'm seeing the flashback to both CT and Bananas in the promo. And that to me means one thing, unless they're doing a misdirect again here with us, which would annoy me even more. But I think it makes sense, because if you're going to have people watch the US show that are from the original MTV challenge, they're more likely to watch it if they know that some of their favorites will be going up against whoever wins the US or whoever wins some of these other franchises. You may want to know who Tyson is. You may want to know who Xavier is, you know, if you know that they're going to go up against some of those guys. So I hope that it is going to be the case, and I hope that I'm right. I don't know if anybody in the chat saw that as well, or did I dream it?
I did see a trailer, right? I did see that trailer that you're talking about, but when I did see it, like I was out somewhere or something, and I watched it without volume. And so when it did start flashing like CT, Bananas, and I think Laurel in the background, I was like, was this fan made? Like, why did they just flash that on there? This just scares me, because now it just feels like another decision that they're making on the fly with their heels kind of they're on their heels now, kind of trying to figure out something to do to help out. And it's just like, just pick something and go with it. Like, just make a decision and then just go full steam ahead. Cause it's like, you made this War of the Worlds. Now it's USA. Now it's CBS. Now it's like, my gosh, dude, like maybe you should have taken a deep breath and then figured it out before just throwing this out there and just being like, we're making the announcement.
Something completely different and done the same concept. And like, I think that they would have had a little bit more success.
Yeah. Amy's saying challenge fans still don't like the Big Brother people, so why would they watch them on CBS? And it's unfortunate that, you know, people who watch the challenge have got this view of Big Brother based on the players that have been chosen, because those players now represents the whole franchise. And I'm not even the biggest Big Brother fan. I haven't watched the last season. I didn't completely watch it. I, at this point, am not planning on watching the new season. I may watch the first week or two, see if it's actually good or not. But there are some great casting choices from the Big Brother universe. It's just they haven't picked them from the start, you know? And I'm excited about some of the people. I know of the three of us, I'm the highest on CBS or USA Challenge. I'm the highest on the international versions, because I think it's a great concept and I want to see more people play the game. But I also understand this thing that has been built for 37, 38 seasons now, going into the 38th season. There's a lot of legacy to it. And I agree, they should have included that franchise from the start. So hopefully they're doing the right thing now by saying that Legends will be included from the main show, because it would feel empty without them. Can you really be called the Challenge World Champion if you haven't beaten the best? If you haven't beaten a Bananas, if you haven't beaten someone like a Laurel who was mentioned earlier, some of these OGs that are the best, I don't think you can do that.
I think that's where the contention comes from when the original announcement was made. It's like, so you have the MTV logo, you're talking about this being a wide, big tournament, yet the players that have made the challenge what it is and who are deemed the best of this game is not even going to be able to play in a country that they already play this game. It's weird. One of my friends mentioned in a Discord chat that they should have called this like the proving grounds. And maybe that would have been a way of like seeing who could match up well in a challenge setting to then move on to the MTV version. So when people watch this show on CBS, and maybe a million or 2 million people watch this and go, I am starting to like Tyson. I'm starting to like Xavier, Cinco. I would like to see them on the main season. And then you get those people that are new to the show and go, well, you can follow them as they move over to the main season. And then if it's proving grounds, then the main challenge fandom would be like, well, maybe I'll just check it out, see how it compares, and see how these other players
kind of like the rookie if they're drafting kind of thing.
Yeah, and if somehow they make it over to the challenge, I'll at least know something about them, rather than, oh, we're making our own playground over here, and this is only for certain players, and you can't play over here with your toys, but we got our toys over here. And it's just like, but those toys can come over to our sandbox, but our toys on our sandbox can't go over. Like, it just seems weird overall. And so I think that's where the contention is.
And I think also with hearing how Tyson wasn't really happy with how the challenges were handled, I'm wondering if they kind of took for granted that they always had built in at least half the cast has played hundreds of these different challenges. So maybe they didn't realize how thorough they needed to be in their explanations, or, they probably just were used to like, oh, Bananas is going to know what to do. And then he'll explain it to maybe the people around him. Like, they don't have everybody's fresh meat here, like taking on this new task of being on this new show. And I don't think that they really took into consideration that people will not know, like, naturally and intrinsically how to play some of these challenges or these eliminations or these dailies. So I think that's also could be another thing that there wasn't the synergy that they were maybe hoping for with this new cast, with the format.
Makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to go on what you just said, but Amy's got a question here. Will Darrell be included if it's Legends? And I kind of think it follows in with what you've just said. In the past, we've seen big groups of vets go up against the rookies. One of the things for me that have been frustrating at times, and I think we've spoken about it on the podcast, is whenever you get really good rookies coming in, they just don't have a chance because they haven't played the game before. So I like the fact that they go and play their own season now, get familiarized with the game, so they're not at that big of a disadvantage going in against the legends of the game or the vets in the game. But the one question you have to ask yourself, Drew, is if they're going to make a full season, because this could be season 39, for instance, that they're lining up. It could be the next one. Will they potentially have half of the cast be vets? Will it be, because there's a lot of legends, like, who are you going to leave out? You're going to have CT, are you going to have Bananas, Wes, different people come on, Laurel, who else potentially will they bring from? I mean, who is legends now? It could be any champion, I guess, that they could bring on to play this game. But I kind of feel like they're going to have to balance it out. Otherwise, the easiest thing for these new franchises will be to just team up and just take out the 4 legends or the 4 champions from the MTV challenge. So I feel like it could be a full season of these players going up against each other and not just this short event, because I think it was advertised as a short event, right? It's only going to be like a couple of episodes and almost like a finale that they're going to be running when they do the clash of the champions of all these shows.
Yeah, from what I saw in the original screening or the original announcement was that it was going to be a two-part episode of just 8 players, 4 for the 4 winners, and then they were going to go up against each other, and it would essentially be a 2-part final, I guess, would have been the case. But with them adding new players in there, it's probably going to be a 3, 4, 5 episode parter, and they're going to try to build it as best as they can. But I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's interesting. Thomas here says that he thinks that majority of Big Brother players cast sees themselves as above the challenge, so we get the bottom of the barrel. I don't know. I don't know if that is what it is, or if casting is just not looking for the right thing. It's hard to know. Do you think that Big Brother players, Chantal, you're probably the closest since you cover the show quite a bit with your own channel and with our app and that. Do you feel like that's the type of players you get on Big Brother? Because some of the names they got, I mean, we've got winners in there. It's just not the right winners, right?
I think that people didn't necessarily know about the challenge. So, like, there's people like, because MTV was a specialty channel, not everybody knew about it. Not everybody watched it. And that's also why I found when I first started covering the challenge that like people are like, oh my God, I didn't know anybody else that watches this. And so what I've noticed from players on Big Brother is that they don't know anything about the challenge. I remember Alyssa did. So Alyssa did talk about, like, have you seen the challenge? And so she was somebody that watched the challenge. I think she might have mentioned that to Xavier. And I don't know if he'd seen an episode or like he doesn't really know it, but like people just don't know about the challenge that are in the CBS bubble necessarily. But the people that came to the challenge from the MTV world, that was always like the ambition is like, oh, let me get on this show so I can get on the challenge. And so I think that that's why the Big Brother players don't care about the challenge in that way. I don't think that they think it's a bottom of the barrel, but it's not what they grew up and are used to. Like they're used to CBS shows because that was part of their basic cable package. So they know about CBS, but I don't think that they're familiar with the challenge because it was on MTV and they most likely did not have that channel.
I can relate to that because I didn't know about the challenge until Final Reckoning, which a lot of people are telling me that's like the worst season to get in. But even at the worst season, I enjoyed it enough to become a big fan and go back and watch older seasons, watch to where we are now. And now I'm all in, but I didn't know about it for years, right? And I spoke to Luke Toki this week, which there's going to be an interview that will come up tomorrow talking about Survivor's Worlds Collide, like if we ever saw global franchises taking each other on in Survivor, which was an exciting chat with the king of the jungle. And Luke, even in that interview, said to me that, you know, everybody keeps telling him to watch the challenge. He's never watched it. He's going to have to make a point of watching it because he doesn't know what it's about. But he's got friends, other Australian survivors that are big fans, like Maddie Wahlberg, who's now in the WWE, is a massive fan of the challenge. He hangs out with Mark Longberg all the time, and Luke and him are close friends, and his name might get dropped in the conversation tomorrow at some point as well. Dirty Harry, who's a good friend of his, very, very big fan of the challenge. Like, I mean, he's even said in the past he'd come on and do a podcast with us. We haven't been able to line it up as of yet, but, you know, there are people who just don't know about it. And I think that big players internationally would want to play if they were introduced to the show. But sadly, it hasn't happened. And I also wanted to bring up what Baby Ice says here. They say that the challenge producers have to prepare for the future. I mean, there is a reason. A lot of the shows now isn't on MTV anymore. Eventually, they'd have to do something to get some young blood in, I guess, into the show. And I do agree with it. It's very tough. It's kind of like even with Survivor right now. The show's been on for 40 plus seasons. So any changes you make to the format of the show, people are going to criticize because they've had 40 seasons of the show that they've loved. And the challenge has got that same balance, Drew. How do they balance this? How do they keep the show fresh? How do they bring new people in, but not lose that loyal fan base that want to see Johnny Bananas and Wes on there until they're 60?
I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I think what everybody was just saying is very telling, right? I mean, Chantal brings up Alyssa was talking to somebody about talking about the challenge, and they never heard of the challenge. Luke Toki, you were talking about, was being told by people to watch the challenge. With the challenge being on MTV, it's only going to get nicher and nicher and nicher as we go on, because the programming that is on MTV is, if you're not watching a marathon of ridiculousness or catfish, you're not going to just happen onto the challenge, right? I mean, some of these shows actually work out where if you're watching cable, way old, I sound way old saying that, but if you're watching like a cable show and then all of a sudden it bleeds into another show and you just start watching it for 10 minutes and you're like, oh man, I'm really into this. Or Netflix, even, make myself seem hipper. But you're watching like streaming and then it just bleeds into the next show. And then you go, oh, this is my new favorite show. You don't do that anymore with the MTV because there's so much where where if you're watching Catfish or something, it's like if you're not on MTV, you won't sit there and watch ridiculousness and then somehow stumble upon the challenge. So I think what they're doing, putting it on CBS, is they're trying to see if that will work, because it'll bleed in from Big Brother into the challenge on Wednesday nights, and they're hoping to grab people that way and a new viewership that way to then cross over to the MTV challenge when Challenge 39 happens. But I was just thinking that it's all word of mouth at this point now, unless you have Paramount Plus or you come across one of our videos in the recommended, and then you're like, oh, well, I'll just give this a watch. And then they get interested in either our conversation or a point that we're making, and then they want to check out the show. It's all going to be word of mouth at this point. And I think that could be the death kiss of the show. Luckily, though, I did hear that they are doing an Are You the One on Paramount Plus. They're doing an All-Star Shore on Paramount Plus. They're doing new shows on Paramount Plus. So maybe those players would be considered to go on to the MTV challenge, possibly, maybe. But I think what helps is new shows on even just Paramount Plus, and then that could work synergy going to the challenge, buying Paramount Plus subscriptions. This new show on the challenge CBS maybe can grab a new viewership, as well as hopefully sustain an older viewership. And then word of mouth is going to be very helpful if it can keep being at a high level. But right now, if it's just working on word of mouth, it's not gonna be sustainable in the near future.
Yeah, we need for the show to be picked up by other people. And I think one of the things, Drew, is your channel has grown so much off the back of these loyal fans that have watched the challenge for so long. So you saying that there is a dip, my side, I've obviously got a young channel. I've got quite a lot of people who watch Survivor. I've seen an increase. Like our USA fantasy draft has got the most views out of any of our fantasy drafts on my channel. And I've had a lot of people message me and comment and say, hey, where can I get challenge episodes? I've never seen it, but I want to watch CBS coming up. I want to watch because Tyson's going to play, because I'm probably a little bit more connected with the Survivor side of things. Not so much the Big Brother, but a lot of people who watch Survivor do want to get into the challenge. So that's what we're hoping for, but we don't want to do it at the expense of the loyal fans that have been there for a long time. We want both. That's why I'm happy if they do bring legends in. They should have done it from the past, and it looks bad on them doing it so late. And there's a lot of competition coming out now as well. One that I saw, a comment that I saw a lot earlier on, and I don't know if Christian is still in here at all. Christian is someone that watches a lot of the Survivor shows. He's never watched the challenge, but he's going to watch USA. He did ask earlier in the chat, the Challenge USA and Snake in the Grass, are you guys going to recap those episodes? Challenge USA, Christian 100% will be doing that, because that's challenge content. Snake in the Grass is a new show, as well as Traitors, which have got some previous Survivor players and some Big Brother players that are going to be in that as well. I haven't decided if I'm going to recap those yet. I might do short form videos on them, because I do have quite a lot going on at the moment. But with legends such as Sari Fields, Yul Kwan,
I mean, we're going to cover it somehow, but maybe not in this format.
Yeah, we'd love to talk about it. And there's just so many good shows coming out at the moment that the challenge has to continue to evolve as well, to remain relevant, to remain a big hitter. Because I do look at the challenge as a quality enough show to be mentioned with Survivor, Amazing Race, and Big Brother in the top echelon of reality TV right now. So it needs to continue to evolve to stay there, I think.
Well, I mean, I agree with whomever said that use Paramount Plus as an opportunity to gain some new players for the regular challenge season. But also, can we just get MTV to be better? Like, I agree. Like, why is it only reruns of Ridiculousness and Catfish and late night? You could see old school Geordie Shore from, I do watch it sometimes, but like, that's me because I've seen all these shows already. And like, I'll watch Geordie Shore again, or I'll watch X the Beach UK. But like, other people might not. Like, there's no reason to get MTV nowadays. I don't know what comes on it now, like live. Like, what comes on, like, what's like a new is Ridiculous a new show, or is it always reruns? Like, I can't even tell if it's a
there's new episodes like every Friday. At one point they were doing every night at 8 p.m. was a new episode of Ridiculousness for a while. And I was like, you have Banged Up. And are these even new? Like, are you just rebranding old ones that were like from 2 seasons ago? And you're like, brand new. You won't tell the difference. You can't tell the difference.
Yeah. Chris here saying she came across the challenge when watching Catfish on MTV.
Right.
And then, the first season was Double Agent. So there are a lot of newer fans that have just come into the game and started watching it. And obviously, if you're like me, you went back to go watch more of the seasons because it hooked you for some other reason, and then you realize,
so much good content. I would be thrilled if I was like, what is this that I found? And there's 38 seasons that I can go and watch. Like, I would be like salivating. So lucky.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, guys, I think that's pretty much it. We covered the episode and a lot more. And I think that leading into the Challenge USA, that's probably what's going to happen every week. Towards the end of the episode, we'll talk about the challenge a little bit wider. What's the direction of the show? What new thing that they drop on us in the last week to change the format once again? Because it looks like nothing is going to be concrete until it actually is. Thank you so much for being here. Like Dolores and Lovable Nikki said, please consider liking and subscribing on all of our channels. It did stream live here today on the Nullified Take channel and also Reality of Realness with 3 S's. So show love to both those channels. And please don't forget Drew's Angel Cake Entertainment channel here on YouTube as well. Chantel, what do you have coming up over the next week on your channel?
Oh, right. Pretty much every day I'm going live, usually at 6:15 Eastern, to cover Love Island UK season 8. We're on episode 18 coming up on Sunday, but this particular Sunday we'll be going live at 9 p.m. Eastern. So that's happening. Then on Thursdays at noon Eastern, we talk about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Is that it? And then here with you guys, I feel like there's more. I know more is coming because I know the Bachelorettes are coming very soon. And then also Big Brother's coming very soon. Obviously, the Challenge CBS is coming very soon. So I think I'm getting busier and I might be missing an entire show. But Wednesdays, as usual, I go live usually at 10:15 Eastern to talk about the challenge and usually go and do a watch party at 2 p.m. on Wednesdays as well. So if people want to watch the episodes, hit me up and I'll let you know when we're going live.
Nice. Drew, what do you have coming up on your channel?
I just want to throw this out there. This new Bachelorette season seems like the most boring season ever with the 2 women that they picked. I'm worried about it. I'm like, they seem like the same person. Anyways, I'm doing things almost every day, every other day. For the rest of June, I'm going to be doing endurance on Sunday. I got power rankings tomorrow, which is the finals preview rankings and a deep dive into the last remaining players, what they could do in a final setting. And then Sunday is endurance. Monday is a clip. Tuesday, I think I'm going to take off this Tuesday. And then review and recap on Wednesday. Tiny Table Talk on Thursday, possibly. Friday, a video. And then doing it all over again. And then hitting into July. And I got big plans for July. I'm going to start taking a step back and doing a lot bigger videos that I think I'm very excited to be doing. So July is huge.
That's awesome.
Coming up. And then I got a lot coming in Patreon. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, where can people find Patreon for your channel? Because you're always active there as well with the Discord chat. You're talking to people all the time. So if they want to pick your brains a little bit more, I feel like Patreon is really it's a steal, to be honest, with how much you give back to that community.
Yeah, patreon.com/angelcakevids. Tiers go up from $1 to $5. And for a $5 tier, you get me rewatching a challenge season, doing commentary on it. Right now, we're in the middle of Challenge 2000 season 3. And then we're going to go into an extreme challenge season 4 starting in August, I believe. And then I'm going to be doing a live. I do at least 2 Patreon lives. I'm actually going to be doing something different for July when Challenge USA starts. And then I do reality wrap-ups of every reality TV show I watched in a single month, which this month is like 10 shows that I've watched. So it's going to be a lot of fun talking about all of those. And then you get your name after every single video, which at this point is like 5 or 6 a week. So you get a lot, your name out there a lot.
So Chasing Cabrin, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Cabrine, I think, says always missing the lives. She's got a fabulous traveling vlog channel on YouTube, guys. Go check it out. She travels around the world to places I would love to travel myself, so go check that out as well. So thank you for watching it back. We appreciate it. All right, so on the Nullified Take channel, we're going to be back next week to do this, talk about the next All-Stars 3 episode. We've got the Luke Toki interview / hyping up a global Survivor season tomorrow. That's going to drop tomorrow around the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I also sat down with Shannon Gus this week to talk about that concept as well, which was a great podcast. We went on for 2 hours, did a fantasy cast, nerded out about Survivor a little bit here on the channel. And I've got some great other international Survivor contestants, previous contestants, lined up to talk to prior to going to Survivor South Africa this season. We might get some legends of the game from some of these seasons to talk about what we can expect from this new Survivor South Africa season. So I'm really looking forward for that. We're going to continue to be busy with Survivor and also challenge content for now. I have seen that there is an announcement of the Amazing Race coming back soon. So I'm sure as soon as that starts again, I will be back doing Amazing Race content as well. But with 4 episodes of Survivor South Africa and exit interviews, I think I'm going to be pretty busy during that period of time. And yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys next week when we do all of this again. Thank you everybody for watching, and catch you guys next time. Bye.